Hey Mason, did you know today was the trade deadline? Uh, may have missed it because the Reds nearly missed it. Wasn't until the last 5 minutes that anything got done, and then really nothing all that big. So we'll talk about nothing.
Instant reaction to whatever that.
Hello, welcome to Riverfront Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. I am Trent Rosecrans, longtime Reds beat writer. That anything got done. Currently with the Athletic, and he is Mason Estep of Reds Daily. Together, like Voltron, we are Riverfront Territory. So today was the trade deadline. Yeah, a lot of. It's funny. I was kind of saying this earlier earlier this week that I'm just kind of like. I'm beginning to think it's more hype than anything now. Tariq Skubal got moved, and Adley Rutschman got moved. Casey Mize got moved. So you had two 1-1s get moved. That's not nothing. And I think there's a lot that was going on. However, the Reds, who had 7 expiring contracts, 7 guys on expiring contracts who were easy to see possible trade candidates, only 2 moved. Caleb Ferguson and Nathaniel Lowe. Bit of a surprise. So, the Hunter Green stuff, again, we talked about this. That was more talk than anything. The Ellie De La Cruz stuff, that was more just, they came and it was like I think it was one of those that was almost like a fantasy football trade where somebody's trying to like rip you off. And you just go, no. And there's no further talks. That's kind of what the Red Sox offered, from what I can understand. So, they weren't giving anybody away, and ultimately didn't give anybody away. But that also means you don't really get much. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to dive into, Trent, because what is said about the deadline and what it could indicate from the thinking. Are these decisions a result of strategy or a result of of the landscape of just what they were, the options they were dealt?
Yeah, it wasn't strategy. This was a team that was looking to do stuff to add for the future or whatever. But in the end, was it worth keeping them or not? And apparently Nick Kroll, the front office, made the decision that what was being offered in return was not equal to what they would give up. There is no rule that you have to trade players to other teams, just for the fun of the trade deadline.
For the sake of it, yeah.
But there's also some missed opportunities.
Yeah. So you were at the Red Stadium today, and you got to hear Nick Kroll, and we actually
Talk
have
to
that.
him, ask questions.
So we can go ahead and play that right now.
So, I guess, how do you feel about what you were able to do and about what you were not able to do today?
Good. We had a lot of conversations with teams. We knew where we are in the standings. We traded Nate, who did a great job here for us, but we felt that we're going to bring Hector Rodriguez up tomorrow, it's a spot we had to fill internally, and then being able to trade Caleb. We've got some guys coming back from the injured list, so we're trying to go down one in our bullpen for those guys to filter in. But we're excited about the guys we got back, and
was the goal to move? Was the goal going in to move more players than that?
We had a lot of conversations about a lot of guys, and at the end of the day, the deals just weren't there for us, and that's why we moved the guys we did.
Is this, how does this help you in any way towards 2027 and beyond, as opposed to just keeping guys for this season?
Yeah, I think that Brady Singer is one of our veteran leaders in our starting pitching staff. Tyler's the same way. I think it's really important to have those guys around this club than just saying, hey, we're going to move guys off. I think it's really important to have bullpen guys that can lock down wins for this group, the young group right now, and obviously have a couple of those guys are going to be free agents at the end of the year. But we feel we're still excited about the group we have and going into 27.
What are the chances any of those? What are the chances any of those guys could be back next year? Singer and or Stevenson in particular.
I would leave the possibility open. We've got a couple months left in the season, but I would leave that possibility open.
Are you concerned about just the fact that for those 5 guys that you're not going to, there's a chance that you won't get anything back for them after they depart if they leave as a free agent?
No, I mean we weighed that going into the deadline, but at the end of the day, what we were getting back from teams we talked to at the deadline was didn't offset that for the last 2 months of the season.
So yeah, that's that was the start of it. We didn't, I think there was another 16 minutes that we talked on the record. So yeah, so it's here's the thing. I think a lot of people don't understand one of these things is that now you talk about these lottery tickets, right? Hector Rodriguez, great example of a lottery ticket. This was when they were tearing down in 2022 and making a lot of trades. Were one of the big winners because they got Noel V. Marte and Edwin Arroyo and Christian Encarnacion Strand and the likes. Well, Spencer Steers turned out to be the best player there. And maybe the one that we're most excited to see now is Hector Rodriguez, who could end up being either the best or the second best, and he will be making his debut. Now, since 2020, there has been a scaling down of the minor leagues.
Right.
For many years, you could have just as many teams as you wanted. The Reds had 2 rookie ball teams, and one in Billings, Montana, one in Greenville, Kentucky, or Tennessee. Those no longer exist because now you are only allowed 165 minor leaguers in the U.S. This is a team that just signed, I think, was it 18 or 20 of their draft picks? And for each one of those, you then have to let people go. So if you're talking lottery tickets, it's not, I'm going to accumulate 10 $1 scratchers. No, you have a $1 scratcher, and the guy next to you is like, hey, I've got this $1 scratcher. Do you want... The other thing is, I've talked to a lot of people. One of my things is I have from both sides, and it's in the story that's going up on the Athletics. The Yankees didn't make an offer for Tyler Stevenson.
Which is shocking.
It's surprising.
Yeah.
I knew that they were not they didn't like him that much. So that's kind of where it was. That's what they did. And, you looked around, the Red Sox made a big deal for Adley Rutschman, who has a year plus left on his deal. He's under team control for next year as well. He's also was an all-star this year. It's just one of those things where it's like, I don't think it's fair to compare what the Orioles got for Adley Rutschman to what people think the Reds could get for Tyler Stevenson.
Adley's a potential starting catcher on an all-star team perennially. I mean, any year I feel like he has that potential.
Yeah, he was Shea Langoliers. It was him and Shea Langoliers were the all-stars in the American League.
Right.
Eugenio Suarez, his 4 months here, his last 2 months of last year, what were you going to get for him?
Right.
Brock Burke, I think you probably could have got something, but you look around, left-handed relievers, you weren't getting all that much. And you're talking lottery tickets, and I think maybe you do that, but is it worth it for the rest? So I have zero faith in Krall ever getting this team to a postseason. He did last year. I mean, 4 years ago, he was a genius at this time because he got Edwin Arroyo and Noel V. Marte. And I was one of those people saying I thought they got a lot of value that year, and they ends up not being so much. It's funny. JJ Cooper had a thing the other day about like the most impactful trade deadline deals of the last like 20 years. And you look at it, there are some, but for every Pete Crow Armstrong who's turned out, there's a lot more Noel V. Martes. So,
they can't all work out. They never all work out. The Reds' history is littered with prospects that haven't worked out.
Every team's history.
Yeah,
every team's history.
Right.
Hey, 2 1-1s got traded today. 2 guys who were first overall picks got traded. One is a rental, and one is Rushman with another year, like we said. So right now this is a team that did keep Brady Singer, who they will consider like a qualifying offer that came out. And I think we talked about this yesterday, right? Didn't we, Mason?
Yeah,
Didn't I say, hey, I could see Brady Singer staying because, it adds depth. If you're not going to get much, why do you push out a guy who made 32 starts last year, which I think was the most in like maybe a decade for the Reds.
Right.
So yeah, it's just, I think you have a lot of question marks in a rotation. If, like I said last night, right, that if we've learned nothing else, that you can never have too much pitching. I think they will.
Revisiting Stevenson, Trent, real quick, because I saw some questions in the chat there. The Yankees, I mean, there was a lot of speculation the Yankees would, be reaching out. And what about him? I mean, he's been hot. He's got the years of experience. He's, a veteran at this point. What stood out potentially that you think that maybe was a detractor for them here?
I mean, the Yankees since like 2000 have been one of the teams that value framing more than anything. And when you look at framing, Tyler Stevenson, I think I had it up here earlier on Savant, is 61 of 62 in framing among qualified catchers. That's bad. I think it was number, where was it? It was number, here's framing numbers. I just pulled it up. Catcher framing runs. Tyler Stevenson is -10, only behind of 61 qualified catchers. He's number 60. Logan Ohape, who did get traded, was 61st. Sal Perez, so at -11. Stevenson 60 at -10, and Salvador Perez at -6 is 59. So he's even 4 runs worse than the next guy on that list. And when you're looking at Austin Wells is +5, that is a guy that they, believe in. JC Escara for them is it's even. That's something that the Yankees, going back to the invention of pitch framing and it is being a concept, have always been big on. It was interesting watching on our Foul Territory Network. If you were watching that leading up to the deadline, Eric Kratz, a guy, great framer, great defensive catcher, guy who'd been traded a couple times. Kratz just kept saying, no, the Yankees are not going against their type. Every time AJ Pierzynski would show up, and say, well, what about Tyler Stevenson? Or the Yankees have got to get a catcher. You heard Kratz say, no, they're not going to change. They're not going to go against type. And I thought that was really interesting. And maybe it was one of those things that I kept noticing as it got longer. And I was like, huh. I've talked to my Yankees guy, and he'd been the whole thing that he kind of kept going down to was, there's so many guys I like better than Stevenson. I think also the ballpark plays into it. Although if you look at it, since June 1st, Tyler's been, of his home runs, only one's been at home. Yesterday was the only one. All the others have been on the road. He's been much better on the road over the last 2 months than at home. But I think with career numbers and what he's done, they held that against him too. So, and also catching is a tough position to come into, new and fresh, learning a whole new staff and all those kind of things. Now we saw a lot of catchers moved, and they will do it, and they have help. But again, these are all things you're weighing when a team is looking to give up stuff. And as I reported, the Yankees didn't even make an offer. So I don't know. It's just it's one of those things where I think the offers weren't there. Rentals, if you look around, besides Tariq Skubal, the rentals didn't bring up that much. We're talking the big ones we're talking about, the big trades we've talked about are guys who aren't rentals.
Yeah, and we talked about it briefly again yesterday, Trent, and I wonder if that factor of, that 40-man roster versus the minor league guys, if people were kind of holding them closer because, you can get another year of development versus the, if they're on the 40-man and we have a lockout, then they can't. They can't continue. So I wonder how much of an effect the lockout has had on this being a kind of unique, it feels like a unique trade deadline.
I think it's been a huge difference. You look around, these are teams not looking at rentals because, the rentals did not return as much. And I think a lot of that has to do with the impending lockout because you don't know exactly how things are going to work.
Right. One question though, the offers weren't there. I don't know, and I don't know if you know, but
neither do I. I mean, I know some, but I don't know all.
Like, was it a proactive thing? Were the calls being made? Were they being tested? Like someone like JJ Bleday. The Reds need outfield help, so you've got somebody here, but it kind of would affect your decision making a bit. I think on someone that's I'm sure a lot of teams would have liked to have JJ Bleday in a trade.
Yeah, and I think so, but also I think I wrote about this too. It's like JJ Bleday might be when you have a dearth of outfielders, honestly, who's their outfield? I didn't I write this too? I wrote this last week. Yeah, it was in the JJ Bleday thing. You don't really have an outfield for next year. JJ Bleday has been pretty good. You have him for team control. I think, and especially when we're talking about going into a lockout, let's remember what happened last time. Not a lot of guys are going to sign ahead of the lockout.
Right.
And then when 2027 does come, everybody's going to be trying to field a team at once.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough way to be. So I think there was some, and I think that's why guys with some control garnered so much and rentals did not.
Right.
And so I think you have to look around at the landscape, and there were a lot of deals done, but I don't know how many deals were done, and I haven't looked at it all, but and I was looking at it there. I'm not sure a team's top 10 prospect got moved for a rental, other than Skubal, of course. Skubal's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
But Tariq Skubal wasn't on the Reds. The Reds weren't trading Tariq Skubal.
Yeah, we can definitely take a look at that after the show and post something about it. Which, by the way, guys, if you have not subscribed, hit subscribe. Helps us grow, helps us, get this type of show together and keep it going. So hit subscribe. I think it was 70% of our viewers had not been subscribed yet. And maybe because you think you already are, you see us in the feed, it's growing. I think, Trent, we're one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing Reds podcast right now. So that's super exciting. We typically have Danny Graves as well, one of our co-hosts. Trent, of course, is in the clubhouse with the team. So hit subscribe if you haven't already, and we can keep this thing going. Trent, we're going to hit a ad break real quick. After that, though, guys, we'll get back to it, and we'll talk about expectations for the rest of the season, what we can see from this team, and a new name coming up to the big leagues, at least one. I'm sure there will be more. But there's a fun one that I think everybody should be a little bit excited about. So all of that and some more coming right up.
It's the summertime, AJ, and this is a time to feel free, wild, make some phone calls that you're overdue for, and also get some deals that you should be getting, that you deserve.
Yeah, it couldn't be any easier, though. It's just one price for unlimited talk, text, and data. It's really simple. It is one price for all the data and all the phone calls you could want per month. It's simple.
That's right. All of Mint Mobile's plans are $15 a month with the summer sale, even unlimited. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory to cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. That's it. There's no catch. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months. Plan required, $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Includes up to 20 gigabyte hotspot. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
Welcome back to Riverfront Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. All right, Trent. So trade deadline has come and gone. We're going to be back at it tomorrow at Great American Ballpark. And we're going to see familiar faces we really didn't expect to see. I mean, Tyler Stevenson was fully emotional on the broadcast with Jim Day. And that made rounds on the internet because it really, it pointed to the human aspect of this as a person with his family and his, he spent the last 10 years of his adulthood with this city and franchise. And, so Tyler Stevenson, of course, is sticking around, but yeah, if you want to share the new name that's going to be joining the team for the first time.
Yeah, Hector Rodriguez getting the call up, which is exciting. I mean, you talk about guys, they need outfielders who can hit. And, well, I'm much more sure that Hector Rodriguez can hit than he's an outfielder. I think they just traded away, the Nathaniel Lowe trade is a guy that was a left-handed hitting DH. Hector Rodriguez will be in right field tomorrow night. And he was, he'll probably end up being a DH, but man, the kid can hit. He swings a lot, but he doesn't miss a lot. So, you hear about guys who have swing and miss. He has swing and hit.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always lead to like the best contact because it's interesting. I was talking to some people, and one of the things they found was he will chase a lot, but what he chases the most out of the zone are fastballs, not the breaking balls. He chases more fastballs out of the zone because he feels like, and well, kind of knows he can hit them. And so that's going to be really interesting. I'm going to be interested to see how that happens. To be a successful big league hitter, he's going to have to shrink that because you'll see more quality fastballs. That high fastball up in the zone's tough to catch up to. You can do that some. But if it's in the zone, you can throw it 105 and he's going to hit it. He's that kind of hitter. And he might swing at something 105 out of the zone, and he'll hit it, and he might just not get good contact. So it's pretty great.
Well, look at that too, Trent. I mean, what I like to see is consistency over, larger samples and 570 games at all levels, obviously various levels, but 286, that's consistency. The guy hits, the guy's a gamer, and we've watched him play, and he plays with a certain intensity and he's a spark plug that I think maybe could be a jolt a bit in this lineup. It almost reminds me a bit of Sal Stewart, who plays with an edge, and it's undeniable. It's the type of mentality that can turn a game around and really turn the momentum. So for a guy to come up, this is the start of his career. If he can take that energy and keep it going, I think it could be really good for any lineup.
Oh, Chad, next time you're there for all the questions I ask, please say hi next time. That pisses me off. I'm sorry. You aren't there for the questions that are asked. There are certain things that are televised that I don't ask my good questions off there. And it's not about, some people like to showboat for the questions. I look for the answers. So, You know.
Ooh.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so I just stop me. Why don't you talk for a second? Because that
Well,
always
I think
gets my goat.
it's interesting. So
Next time you're there, Chad, and wanna and hear all the questions asked, say hi to me.
yeah, maybe we could even do it live. But I think it's interesting, Chad, too. Like, I come from the fans' perspective, so I understand where you guys are coming from. And having worked more with Trent, I've got a bit to see the other side of things. And it's not all black and white. There is a relationship that is required to be maintained. Just like you want to have the door open for access to learn the information that's needed to do the job.
I get access either way. I'm not going to piss anybody off. It's just whether you see people every day, so you treat people. It's not about asking gotcha questions. It's asking about questions that get closer to the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if this team wins or loses. I get paid either way.
Right.
So like that's not what it is, and they're not gonna. They can't. I've told them, you can't take away my card. I don't care. Like they can't take away my access. So, and I always love that argument too. You guys, if you do not know, yeah. Anywho,
but it does bring the question though, Trent. So like I see it all the time. About the conversation about the front office, and like you said earlier, just a couple of years ago they were being praised for how different the deadline had gone. What was it in 2022? That brought in all these
when
guys.
They were sold, and then last year they made moves at the deadline that helped them get to the playoffs. Now they didn't win in the playoffs, but they got there. So,
kind of sometimes it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. For you can't please everybody, but. Where do they go from here? This team, we didn't really trade off some of the bigger pieces. Do you think there's a run potentially at this point, or do you think it's probably going to coast to be more of the same?
Yeah, not for this year. Like this year's toast. They're 5.5 games out of the wild card. That's not as big as the 5 teams between them in that third spot. Honestly, the Reds are in last place in the NL Central, and I think I would put like even odds on them finishing 3rd, 4th, or 5th because the Cardinals have sold off. The Pirates made some moves. We'll see how those work for them. I don't know. We'll see. I think the Cubs and the Brewers are the class of this division this year. And the Cubs were pretty aggressive today. I would say the Brewers had a worse trade deadline than the Reds. I would say the Braves had a much worse deadline than the Reds. I mean, you're talking about teams that's why the hysteria kind of just doesn't make much sense to me, because this is a team that was going nowhere, didn't have their expiring assets. I don't know that they were going to bring back much. So I can see the criticism that you're spinning your wheels here. And I think that's a really fair question, like, our sentiment. But you didn't step back because this season's toast. Yeah. And the front office didn't say, "Oh, they won 10 of 16 in the second half." That didn't change it at all. That's not why. It's because I think Brady Singer is the type of guy that when you pay him to make 32 starts. If there are 10 left, well, he's the type of guy who, and I've said this all along, right? Like, he's the type of guy that gets you to the playoffs, not the guy that advances you in the playoffs. To advance in the playoffs, you need a Chase Burns, you need a Hunter Green. And there's that kind of thing. The other thing that Brady Singer might do is, well, the one thing Brady Singer will always do, and this is why I think this was part of the calculus of trade him or not trade him, is he takes the ball every 5 days. A guy's pitch, he posts. That is the most. That is the term that is used inside a clubhouse. That is a term that is used with great admiration, and great value. If you post every 5 days, Brady Singer's done that. Brady Singer also, if he's not a guy who's gonna get beat up in the first 3 innings and then just dive, he's gonna wear it. He's gonna give you 5 to 6 each time, no matter the pitch count. And when you're talking about young pitchers and injury risk, some that have been up and down on the IL, Lodolo, Lodolo trending towards coming back. Chase Burns is already at 100 and how many innings is he at? I believe he has already surpassed the number that he's ever pitched. And there are different ways to gauge that. They've already kind of pushed him back. They put him at the end of the rotation in the second half, and I think they're gonna do some things looking there that's maybe not throw as much between starts and worry about spring in the future. But this is a guy who has pitched 118 and 2/3 innings in the big leagues this year. Last year, in everything, including the big leagues, let's see, 3 teams. Well, he's pitched 109 1/3, so he's just about to the number that, or he's a whole 9 innings past what he pitched last year. Pitched 100 innings in Wake Forest and 24, 72 at Tennessee in 23, 80 in 2022. I asked Nick Krall if they are planning on shutting him down, and he said no, they're going to work around some stuff. I asked him if because he did say, hey, 5.5 games out. We were further behind than that in August last year. But if the idea is that get to the tournament, you have a shot, well, you have the shot with Chase Burns. And so basically that's saying that if Chase Burns, they do have to skip a start or something, you have Singer. Lodolo is making a rehab start this week. Williamson, another one. But both those guys have been hurt this year. And that's the thing is they still have 50 some games to go.
Yeah.
They've got to play those and not hurt guys. And so I think that's a big part of it. Nick said something about, you still want to win. You want guys to experience winning when they come up.
Right.
And so the idea is not to lose every game here from here on out so that you have a guy at A-ball that could be good in 5 years. You're having some of those young players. You like the way that Tyler Stevenson, different Stevenson, works with the young pitchers in addition to Jose Trevino. And so those are things that have value. The value of Brady Singer, just like Nick Martinez did. Nick Martinez was a very valuable guy in the clubhouse. Now, I don't know what they were offered, but I'm not going to say that stuff doesn't have value.
Yeah, and I've got an interesting comparison for you here, Trent. I just went ahead and ran this on StatHead, a little quick comparison. Talking about the value of a guy who, takes the ball like Singer does. It kind of reminded me of another player that the Reds fans have long loved, Bronson Arroyo. So I was curious, and take a look at this. Look at the ERA plus, ERA. I mean, these are both guys that would take the ball, every 5 days, and pretty similar. And at this point in their career.
You know what? That's a great comparison. It's funny. I think they're in the same locker. So, yeah. So it is really interesting. That's a really interesting comparison because you look at the WAR and it's like half, right? With half the starts or fewer than half. Mm-hmm. And that is what Bronson did. Bronson prided himself on 200 innings. Now, 200 innings isn't what it used to be. Nobody does 200 innings. Back then, guys would, and Bronson did it every year. And I think there was one year we finished with 199 and a third, and he was mad. But the same kind of guy. Like, you know what? He could get shelled, and he will stay out there and wear it to help the bullpen. You know, you hear that all the time, especially when the team's losing, because they have done that a lot. But that's no small thing when a starter goes out there, like what Chase Burns did. You know, Chase Burns sat through a delay. So that was like, he went 6 yesterday, but like the Reds said, like Tito said, he treated that rain delay as an extra inning. So that's why when Chase wanted to go out for a 7th, he was like, nah, man, you already got, in Tito's mind, 7. Those things have value. And again, not saying that it's one of those things you have to weigh everything. And that's all part of that equation.
Yeah, we've got one more quick ad break, Trent, and we'll take a look forward to the rest of the week for the Cincinnati Reds.
Today's episode is sponsored by the ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program. Kratz, we love our pups.
We do, and I can't put Bella in a bubble. So you know what I'll do? I'll do the next best thing for her.
That's right. The ASPCA Pet Health Insurance Program offers customizable accident and illness plans that can fit your budget, your lifestyle, and even your pet's particular quirks. ASPCA Pet Health Insurance has been around for almost 30 years and has covered over 1 million pets. And when it's time to submit a claim, it's easy. Just use their app and receive reimbursement for eligible vet bills directly into your bank account so you can get back to focusing on what really matters, and that's your pet. To explore coverage, visit aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. That's aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. Again, one more time, aspcapetinsurance.com/FOUL. This is a paid advertisement. Insurance is underwritten by either Independence American Insurance Company or United States Fire Insurance Company and produced by PTZ Insurance Agency Limited. The ASPCA is not an insurer and is not engaged in the business of insurance.
Welcome back to Riverfront Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. So we've kind of hashed out the trade deadline here a little bit, Trent. It's time to move forward since the trade deadline's over, and it's not like back in the day where there was kind of, the deadline would come and go, but there was still the waiver and everything else. So this is it. This was the deadline nowadays there's a finality to it for that season, right? Except for free agency.
Yeah, and so we're gonna see what that is. It's you'll get to see some minor leagues up and down. Also wanted to mention Baseball America recently did a top 20 in the Arizona Complex League, and Alejandro Rivera, the guy they got for Nathaniel Lowe, was number 15 on that list, which was pretty interesting. There were of the 20 players, 5 were Reds farmhands, including Steele Hall, last year's first round pick, who really had a great year in the ACL, which, interesting enough, like his ACL, Arizona Complex League, with him, like, he reclassified, so that would have been his senior year. Instead, he was playing pro ball,
right,
and really had a good season. Now he's an A ball in Daytona, and looking forward to seeing where he goes from there. So anyway, just one thing I wanted to mention: Aaron Watson is a big right-hander that people are pretty high on. Merite, the Dutch kid, also spiny lefty. So anyway, just throwing that out there, that when we were talking about the trade deadline, that the one guy they did get, has a chance to be a starting pitcher, and that's interesting. Right-hander, but could be a major league depth piece in the rotation, which, again, as we just discussed, is extremely valuable. That is the one player they added in Brito, the DFA from the Guardians, who was good at AAA. But yeah, like, that's the thing I'm watching, is trying to think who else might be up next. You got to look at guys who are on the 40-man, and that's like, you're not gonna put Alfredo Duno with the 40-man at this point. You're not gonna do those things. You have to remember all the different like rules that are involved in this kind of thing. If you want to throw around the incompetence or whatever the hell you want to say, like, or whatever words, what's the one everybody loves to throw away, like, it without knowing the things. So yeah, I'm going to be interested to see guys like, Chase Petty, how he finishes, when Connor Phillips comes back up, what he's able to do. Edwin Arroyo needs to go down and see what happens when he comes back up. Hector Rodriguez, I've already talked about. Leo Balcazar, if he comes up some point this season.
He was just promoted to AAA, all right?
Yeah. Luis May has been on a heater for the Bats. Luis, we talked about Hector Rodriguez making his debut. Hector is there and can he went. What was I saying? Yes, he had 4 hits yesterday, including his 27th homer of the season.
Right.
Going to be really interesting to see him. I want to see if Ellie De La Cruz can continue and put together what has been really, for me, a really interesting, good season. He's been quiet but steady. You've seen a lot of improvement from him on that everyday stuff. I think a lot of people are missing out on and overlooking because it hasn't been as loud. And, we always associated him with electric. That was the word he kept using and everybody used for him for a while. But you're talking to a guy hitting 276 right now, a 355 on base percentage. That's a really good player. And why Sal Stewart is leading, tied for the lead in RBI? Because he hits behind Ellie De La Cruz. Ellie has been... I'm just really impressed with Ellie's season all around, and I think it's kind of gotten lost.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's what you need. You need that consistent. That's what everyone was clamoring for. Where's the consistency? Where is the execution on the normal plays? The standard plays that need to be completed. There was a lot of maybe errors people saw or were pointing to, and it seems like he's really just kind of found his day-to-day, level of play. That, I mean, quietly is 3.4 WAR quiet.
Yeah.
After 100
I think
games.
That's been really interesting. Yeah, no, good. That's a great point, man. Like, he's had a really good season. And it's not been, I don't know. I've just been really impressed with the season that Ellie De La Cruz has put together this year.
Yeah, and talking about storylines to follow as the season goes through, you can say whatever you want about RBIs or the traditional stats. And, people like to say that, average doesn't matter and the wins don't matter for pitchers and things like that. But Sal Stewart is leading all of MLB in RBIs. And, I do understand that's dependent on guys being on base, but, converting a base runner into a run, scored run is its own thing for sure. And
the argument has always been it is not a good. Nobody is saying that runs aren't important and knocking in runs aren't important. Well, the argument is been more nuanced than that and been overheard. It's saying that is not a stat that shows an individual's contribution. Mm-hmm. It is not independent of what the player is. It's not a good way of judging how a player is doing or what they are doing.
Yeah.
So that's for me, that's a big part of it.
It's gonna be fun though,
And so
the record.
I'm not going to knock 100 RBIs as a rookie.
103 is the record. The Reds franchise, most in history as a rookie, and it's looking pretty at risk at this moment in time. But I think
the guy who has that was pretty good, right?
I think 16 home runs away from 600 home runs, Frank Robinson, what they call it, the Reds called an old 30 years old, which one of the most famous quotes when they traded him, and he went and won an MVP in Baltimore. But, with Sal, I think the last time I checked, I don't think a National League player has ever led the NL in rookies. I'm sorry, in RBIs. I think Ted Williams did it, and I think maybe someone else from Boston had done it, but I could be mistaken. But it's we got to find things to be excited about. That's one I'm excited about. Can he get to? He should get to 30 home runs. How many is he going to end up with? What a standout performance from Sal Stewart, and it's hard to remember. It's easy to forget that he's 22, and we're very lucky to have Sal on the team. And keep in mind, Sal would not be on this team if the Reds had traded the player that they offered to sign at the end of the season and resulted in a draft.
Oh yeah,
pick.
remember that they're not trading. They're not trying because they didn't re-sign Nick Castellanos, and
Right.
he went to the Philadelphia Phillies,
resulted in Sal Stewart.
Draft.
So perhaps that is something that they mentioned that didn't they? Didn't Nick mention that potential?
I think I mean that's a win that you mentioned,
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, excellent. All right, guys. Is there last round of question here? If you've got anything else, fire it off, but make sure you're subscribed first. That's a critical point there. And then we're gonna wrap this up and get back to it. So, Trent, do you want to pick one?
Let's see. Then moving Ellie to lead off. Do you see him staying at the top of the lineup for the rest of this year and beyond? I can see him for the rest of this year. I don't know beyond. I think actually what they want to do is ultimately hit second or third, but without a lead, an actual anybody else there that they could use. I think that's a good one. Let's see. What's the other one? I thought I just saw one good about Rodriguez when he doesn't play, when Suarez is DHing. He's going to play right field tomorrow, is what Nick said. I would expect to see him a little more in left, but I think ultimately he's a DH, and we'll also see, quite honestly, like how much Gino gets those. I mean, Gino's right-handed, so this left-hander, but I mean, this kid really hits everybody. So anyway, but I think that'll be interesting. I think Gino might play less. I think they were hoping that he got really hot and somebody would come and want him at the trade deadline. You looked last couple days, you had like Stevenson 3, Lowe 4, Gino 5 or 6 in the lineup, and it was all the guys that they were kind of showcasing. I guess it was Blade 3, then Stevenson, Lowe, Suarez, and those were the guys. I will be interested to see if Gino plays less now, because the trade deadline is over.
It'll be interesting. It'll be Riverfront territories where you can keep the conversation going with no matter what's going on with the Cincinnati Reds, one way or the other. We'll be here talking about it. So thank you guys all in the chat for the comments. And there's been a ton of subscribers, new time subscribers, just since we started this video. It's awesome. That goes so far to help us keep doing this. This is why we keep doing the lives, because of the engagement.
Yeah.
It's been so high.
Good ones today.
Yeah. Hey, it's fun though. We don't want to be like sycophants and everybody just agree. I mean, that's no fun. So, and it's good to get the different perspectives.
Yeah. Good questions. Good stuff. So yeah.
Cool.
I think that's important.
Thanks so much, guys. For Trent Rosecrans of The Athletic, I'm Mason Estep with Reds Daily, and we are Riverfront Territory, a part of the Foul Territory Network, and we will see you guys next time.